Welcome to Blueprints for Brilliance Coaching Insights, a podcast by coaches for coaches. Our guests share their hard-won wisdom to help you grow your coaching business and create a life of success. So get ready to unlock the blueprints to your success. Welcome, everyone, to our newest episode. I am thrilled to have a lovely lady here. Her name is Miriam Gilbert. Her company is Impactfulness Lab, and she is a business coach, and she's going to tell us all about her. So welcome, Miriam. We're excited to have you here today.
Oh, thank you so much, Janine, for having me. I'm very, very excited to be on this podcast. Thank you.
Wonderful. Well, we want to know all about you. Tell us how you became a business coach.
Well, actually, this gives me a great opportunity to talk about something that is incredibly close to my heart, which is exactly why I became a business coach. Because my background actually is in corporate, and I worked in corporate organizations for 20 plus years, climbed the career ladder, became a CFO, sat in boardrooms. I had worked for one of the biggest consultancies in the world. So I really got to sit in a lot of high-powered meetings and boardrooms. And I really enjoyed it. I really loved that. But when I was pregnant with my son and one evening had worked too late, I was just really burned out rushing home. It was winter and I was 8 months pregnant. I slipped on the ice that was outside. I was fine, but it kind of gave me a wake up call. So like, right, I don't want to bring up a child when I work crazy hours. And even though I loved it, don't get me wrong, I was always lucky. I always worked in really great environments, but I thought, no, this isn't good. This is not how I want to raise a child. So I decided, okay, I'm going to set up my own consultancy. So I became a corporate consultant, but on my own terms. It allowed me to work part-time around my baby. Yes, I didn't have to get up the next morning at 6 o'clock to do a corporate job, but I could do things on my own terms, which was absolutely fabulous. But one thing that I found over the years was that people kept coming to me and saying, oh, can I pick your brains? Could we have a coffee? And this was before the pandemic, so nobody did Zoom. So it was always meeting people. And they were always like, how do you get clients? How do you sell your services? What do you sell? How do you become attractive? And I thought there is a need to teach people how to sell to corporates, because that is very different to selling in the online space. You know, it's a completely system, different dynamic, different systems, different processes, different psychology. And at around that time, when I decided to look into it, I also read an amazing book about how corporates could be so different, how corporate culture, let's face it, when I say that term, most of the people that are listening to this will automatically add the word toxic to the end of the phrase, right?
Yeah.
Everybody jumps to that. And I'm like, what would the world be like if we associated corporate culture with something positive? Because it was something positive, because it was great places where people could flourish. And when I read this amazing book, it made me realize it is possible. It is actually possible. So not only did I have generally a positive experience in my corporate career, but it actually is possible at scale. And then I thought, now I want to make it my mission to help experts who are passionate about making a real difference for people, take their zone of genius and get it into corporates so that we can really shift the whole way of how corporates operate. Everything, create corporate cultures that are positive. So that is a very long story of how I ended up a business coach.
Oh my gosh, I love that. I can totally relate because I started my business. I used to work a 9 to 5 and I started my business when I had my second child.
Okay.
So, it was a job at home, but thankfully not a job I had to go to. But yeah, and I can totally relate to the corporate. I think businesses need to move with the times, if you will, and people are less apt to just stick to a very rigid culture environment. You have to do this to get to that level. Things need to be a little more fluid and motivational and exciting. So I do love that you loved your corporate job, which isn't actually something you hear very often. But I love that. I love that goal.
In the first place, isn't that sad that too many people don't like it? And I think given that there will always be so many people working in corporates, we will need corporations. Because who's going to build the mobile phones? Who's going to run Zoom? Who's going to build the planes that we like to travel on? We always will need corporates. So how about making the lives of people inside there better?
Oh, I love that. So tell us a little bit about your clients, who your ideal clients are, and how you help them go from where they are to a better place.
So my ideal clients for my Impactfulness Lab business, where I help them to get into corporates, they need to have a passion for changing the lives of people. So sometimes get people come to me and say, oh, I hear you can make good money with corporate. Yes, that is 100% true. Corporate clients can pay you a lot. In fact, I have several individual clients, like one company that pays me over 6 figures. It's brilliant, but you can't do that as a get money kind of scheme. There has to be a passion behind it. So my ideal clients are really driven by a passion for their topic. And you shouldn't hold back just because you think that your topic might be something that corporates traditionally haven't hired. I've worked with breath workers. I've worked with energy workers. I've worked with all kinds of people. When we work together, I help them translate whatever their genius is into something that corporates can understand. So that does not mean watering yourself down. It just means kind of translating a little bit, how does your zone of genius help them? So they really need to have that passion. They need to be an expert. Corporates will not buy somebody who's just taken a life coaching course and has never had a client and no results. They will not hire that. And because selling to corporates, like any business, it takes effort, you do need to be self-led. You need to have that kind of passion to build a business. These are really the only prerequisites, which I think is the same for any type of business you want to build, really.
I love that you're helping non-traditional people work with corporates, because I think that's how things are going to change and that's how they're going to help their people.
Absolutely. And when you hear the impacts that they make, so for example, I had one lady who does a lot of energy work, and she decided that she wanted to bring more happiness into the workplace. So she was running happiness at work, workshops. And she takes photos of all the people and gets notifications from her clients like months later and like, oh yes, the teams are doing really well and people are much happier. Like, that's brilliant. That's just uplifting, right?
Yeah, I love that. When I worked in corporate, I did work for MTV Network. So we're pretty ahead of the curve as far as the organization itself and supporting people. But there weren't that many energy healers or energy work people. And I feel like there's a lot more to it now, and we know a lot more now about how the brain works and the brain and body work and how to relieve stress and all those type of good things.
Absolutely. And we always have to remember that different modalities and different approaches will be right for different organizations. Coming to an end this time of the cookie cutter type programs, corporates themselves, they tell me that they're bored of getting these generic programs. This is how you reduce stress in your workforce, and they don't work. It needs to be tailored. And no matter how you approach it, there's probably organizations out there who want exactly what you do. It just needs to be translated so they can understand that's what they want.
So you're a translator is really what you are, aren't you?
Yeah, I think, the more I've been saying that, I'm like, yeah, actually, that's what I really am.
I love that. So can you give us an experience that a client, maybe one of your favorite clients or a client that you had quite an amazing transformation that you'd like to share with us?
Yeah, well, I can't play favorites because I love all my clients, of course. But I was particularly enjoying recently working with a client who actually hired me. She came through my group program, but then hired me one-on-one. And she had been trying to break into the corporate sector for quite a few months. She was successful in the online sector, but it didn't quite translate. And she felt that there was a lot of missing pieces. So when we worked together, one part was helping her to properly translate her work into something that corporates wanted, because she had gone down a route of, you do your internet searches and what do other people sell. So she had gone down a certain route. And actually, while she could do that work, it didn't represent her genius. Because her genius is really about translating the needs of diverse workforces into better articulation so that companies can actually work better with their employees. And she had incredible results that way, turning disengaged, unhappy, unproductive teams into cohesive, happy, loyal employees literally within weeks. And people always think, oh, it takes months and years. No. She actually has those results because she just provides her version of a translation. So I helped her to understand how to communicate this better. And then one thing that's not very often is making sure she understood that there was different types of leaders that she could approach, because a lot of coaches think that, it's HR or maybe learning and development that I should go to. But actually, when you help the employees, people who are in operational leadership roles or strategic leadership roles, they'll be really excited because they're suffering from the issues. So we started articulating her message depending on who she was reaching out to, who she was networking with. What she told me was like, oh my gosh, I've gone from one client every 2, 3, 4 months to literally booking sales calls with corporate every week, like having one call every single week and then converting most of them into actual clients. So
I love that. The importance of messaging. I think because we're so much more online now that people are recognizing how valuable that is. And with the incorporation of AI helping you copyright and things. But yeah, my business partner always says if she could have a magic skill, it would be copywriting. Because it is. Sometimes you have to articulate things that in a way that people hear them and that they understand them.
Yes, absolutely. And I think people get too hung up about trying to find the right fancy words. That's how I would express it. And particularly when it comes to corporates, people think they need to speak in a certain way, where actually what you're aiming at to do is to make the other person feel understood. That's really what it is. It's not that you need to understand them. Of course you do, but you need to make them feel understood. Then they will be interested. Then they will pay attention. Then they will want to speak to you and hire you.
Yeah, I love that. That's so true. Let me ask you, how do you stay motivated when sometimes things get tough or your clients face a setback? You know, it's hard as a coach because you are the cheerleader. You're the one that everybody comes to. How do you stay motivated?
I mean, obviously, the first step is to acknowledge that it's normal and then to really look where is it coming from, because sometimes it's a case of, oh, just go for a walk. Have an afternoon now. It's an energetic thing at that level, whereas sometimes it's a bigger issue. Maybe you're dealing with clients that are not happy or not getting the results they want, or I don't know, your husband has a bad day or whatever. And one thing that helps me a lot is I'm quite religious about my self-care. So I will exercise pretty much every single day in some form or the other, trying to get outside. The biggest thing I think that helps me is that I'm still a corporate consultant as well. So I actually still do the work. So if I feel things are dragging or so, I go, okay, I'm not just cheering on my clients, but also I'm doing it for myself. So it sounds almost selfish, but it's not, because it provides an added layer of growth. The more I grow, the more I can serve my clients. That gives a good dynamic, I feel.
I love that. I love that. So a little bit of distraction, but always the self-care. And I think, you know, if you don't have that, if you don't not taking care of yourself, you can't show up as your best self. You can't help others as well as you could if you were on top of things. So I love that. So how should people reach out to you if they are a coach who wants to work with people in the corporate world?
Well, the best would probably be to either message me or contact with me on social media. I'm on Facebook as Miriam Gilbert. I'm on Instagram as Impactfulness Lab, and I'm on LinkedIn as well as Miriam R. Gilbert, or they can drop me an email at miriam@impactfulnesslab.com. So that's really the easiest. I'm always happy to advise people. I'm always happy to share some insights. A lot of people have gotten great results just using my free information. So I'm always really delighted about that, because it shows like, yay, my mission is getting power. It's getting momentum.
I love that. I have no doubt. So we will put your information in the show notes so that people can reach out to you. And I have one last question. If you could provide one tip to make the world a better place, what would that be?
My biggest thing that underpins everything is that you always treat other people with respect. So even if you don't necessarily agree with them, but if you can show that you still respect and recognize that there's a human being sitting across from you, then that goes a long way. And that shows up in the way how you would deal with clients, how you would deal with suppliers, how you deal with everybody around you. And I think the moment we do that, the world becomes a better place.
I love that. That's absolutely perfect. Well, Miriam, this has been such a pleasure to get to know you and understand a little bit more about what you do and how you do it. Tell us where you're actually landing right now. Where are you in the world?
First of all, thank you so much for having me. It's been such a pleasure. Thank you. I'm based in London, in Southeast London in the UK.
Fantastic. So if you're in the US and you reach out to Miriam, make sure that you keep in mind there's a time zone issue.
That is true, yes. And I do need my sleep.
That's right.
Very important.
Very, very important. Miriam, it has been such a pleasure. Thank you so much for joining us, and thank you for what you're doing in your business. You're helping so many, I'm sure.
Thank you very much for having me and for allowing me to talk about my mission. I really appreciate it. Thank you.
Absolutely. Thanks for joining us today on Blueprints for Brilliance Coaching Insights. We hope you're leaving this episode with inspiration to take your coaching business and your life to the next level. If you found value in this episode, we would love it if you would subscribe and share it with someone else who you think might benefit from hearing it. Thanks, and we'll see you in the next episode.